Hey, and welcome everybody. Look at me growing up and being all organized. I literally just recorded episode 10. I'll tell you the title of episode 10. Episode 10 is titled The Layers of Remembering Beyond the Spiritual Matrix, and I'm recording episode 11. I'm still in my dressing gown, just super chilled. Chrysler and his smelly little farts. If you heard the previous episode, you will know about his smelly little farts. I'm just sitting here in my room, incense burning, and I'm just like, you know what? The energy's just right. And I don't know about all of you lately. I've just been finding that I've been more productive once the world is asleep. And it just allows me to breathe, my nervous system to breathe, whatever it is, all that spiritual fucking shit crap, that lingo, and off he goes again with his little fart. So, that's a bit stinky. Chrysler, like, I love you to death, man, but sometimes when they go off, they go off. So greetings and welcome. Welcome. My name is Anita, and I am your Sherpa. This is the Storytelling Sherpa, my voice, my journey, my lane. And tonight, I want to talk to you about something I haven't really heard many people talking about openly. And I posted something on Instagram today, both from my personal and my Storytelling Sherpa account. And yeah, I just felt like I needed to put it out there, and I'd gone a little bit quiet on Insta, and when I do that, that means I'm deep in something or deep in myself, right? And also when I take Chrysler for a W, I'm not going to say the word because he might wake up and think he's going for a WALK, and I usually think about this reality, and and it's funny when I do go on those walks and I see cars and people, and I'm like, I put myself in the Truman Show. It's what I do, right? So obviously I've been questioning everything lately. Not questioning one thing, but everything. Reality, the timeline stuff, the 2012 stuff, the awakening stuff, the spiritual stuff, even the things I once felt completely certain about. Lately, I found myself standing in a place I've never expected to arrive at, a place where the answers that once felt solid don't feel as solid anymore, a place where the frameworks that once helped me make sense of reality feel a little looser around the edges. And perhaps the strongest part in this, I don't think I'm alone. The feeling that something shifted. Sometimes I wonder if anyone else feels it too. Like the world never quite came back after COVID. Like something shifted around 2012. Like reality itself feels slightly different, not dramatically different, subtly different. Like we're standing in the same location but somehow inside a different version of reality, which many are calling the Mandela effect, or are experiencing the Mandela effect. I can't explain it. I can't prove it. I don't have evidence. I only know that when these conversations happen, people quietly emerge from the shadows and say, "Me too." And that fascinates me. But we're not in those conversations. We're not in those spaces having those conversations. And no one is putting their hand up to say, "Me too." Hence my post. And it was beautiful to have people reach back out and say, "I'm feeling it too, hang in there," and others sharing beautiful messages. So it's about creating that safe space and giving that permission, gifting that permission. And what fascinates me, because whether it's psychological, cultural, spiritual, collective, biological, or something we don't yet have language for, a lot of people seem to be sensing that something changed. Maybe something shifted. Maybe we did. Maybe both. The strange grief nobody talks about. Told you in the previous one, I said I'd be talking about grief in different ways, shapes and forms. So what I've recently realized is that questioning reality isn't actually the hardest part. The hardest part is grieving certainty, because certainty can become an identity. Certainty tells us who we are, how the world works, what comes next, what everything means. And when certainty starts dissolving, something inside us can feel homeless. I used to think an awakening was about finding answers. Now it feels more like watching answers fall apart one by one, sometimes gently, sometimes all at once. And perhaps that's why this phase feels so strange, not because we're losing ourselves, but because we're losing the version of ourselves that needed everything to make sense. Maybe we're not looking for answers. Something interesting happened after I shared some of those thoughts online. People didn't rush in with solutions. They didn't try to explain reality. They didn't try to convince me of their beliefs. They didn't try to rescue me from uncertainty. Instead, many of the responses were surprisingly simple. Me too. And I've been sitting with that because perhaps we're not all looking for answers as much as we think we are. Maybe we're looking for recognition. Maybe we're looking for someone else to quietly say, I felt that too. Not so we can agree, not so we can build another belief system, but so we know we're not alone inside the questions. Before storytelling became content, it served a different purpose. Stories helped humans make sense of being alive. Stories help communities process grief, transition, loss, confusion. Stories were shared in circles around fires, not to perform, not to impress, but to remember, to belong, to witness. And maybe that's what I've been doing here all along. Not providing answers, not creating followers, not building another framework, just saying the quiet part out loud. And for those who do listen and do receive, it is the ears that are ready to hear. The uncertainty, the confusion, the mystery, and perhaps in hearing it, someone else gives themselves permission to acknowledge where they are too. And some of us might be listening to this in 2026, and some of us may be listening to this in 2036. So, standing between worlds. One of the strongest things about this season is that while I'm questioning the spiritual world, other people are discovering it for the first time. As I question awakening, others are waking up. As I question the spiritual matrix, others are entering it. And neither is right or wrong. It's simply interesting to witness, to observe. Because there was a time when spiritual concepts felt revolutionary to me. They helped me make sense of experiences I couldn't explain. They gave language to things I could feel but couldn't articulate. But now something else is happening. The questions are turning toward the framework itself, not rejecting it, not attacking it, just questioning it. And I think that's a very different stage of the journey. So there is another cycle of waking up again. Perhaps awakening happens in layers. We do live in a linear world, right? The first layer might be waking up from the material world, questioning careers, consumerism, conditioning, the stories we've inherited. Then perhaps some people enter the spiritual world, energy, consciousness, synchronicity, healing, purpose, soul contracts, ascension, timelines, all the buzzwords. And for a while, those frameworks can feel expansive, liberating, necessary even. But eventually some people arrive at another threshold, a place where they begin questioning those frameworks too. Not because they're wrong, but because every framework eventually becomes a lens. And every lens has limitations. Maybe awakening isn't about finding the final truth. Maybe it's about continuously seeing where we've become attached to certainty, even spiritual certainty. So here I interject questioning joy, because I've been questioning that for myself. And I've been comparing joy to what it feels like now, to what it felt like at the marker point of my dad crossing over, and even the marker point of joy from COVID, you know. One of the questions that surprised me most recently was that, what even is joy? Where does it go when the things that used to light you up don't quite hit the same anymore? When you've changed so much that the old versions of happiness no longer fit. I think many people are quietly experiencing this. Not depression, not necessarily sadness. Just a strange neutrality, a strange in-between space where old pleasures don't land the same, old ambitions don't motivate the same, old identities don't fit the same. And perhaps what we're actually grieving isn't joy. Perhaps we're grieving familiarity. How humans respond when certainty disappears. And that's really interesting. What happens is that people respond very differently when certainty starts dissolving. Some feel liberated, like they finally put down a backpack they didn't realize they were carrying. Others feel terrified because if the framework disappears, what exactly are we standing on? Some people double down on their beliefs, others abandon their entirety, some search for new teachers, some stop listening to teachers altogether. Some seek stronger answers, others become comfortable with mystery, and all of those responses are deeply human. But the nervous system likes certainty, the brain likes certainty, identity likes certainty. So when certainty disappears, something inside us naturally starts searching for solid ground. Maybe this is destruction. Maybe this isn't another awakening. Maybe it's a stripping away because it's a destruction. A season where certainty dissolves and all that's left is honest inquiry. No conclusions, no destination, no neat spiritual ending, just questions. And perhaps that's okay, because what if not knowing isn't failure? What if it's actually maturity? What if wisdom isn't certainty, but the capacity to remain open when certainty disappears and the mystery remains? These days I'm less interested in finding the purpose of life. I'm not even sure there is one. What fascinates me now is something deeper. Why does consciousness exist at all? Where did it start? How did it start? And I always remember as a kid, always thinking, how did all of this start? Why are we here? What is reality? Why are we taught to take this experience so seriously when none of us truly know what it is? Maybe the universe, it's just Chrysler, making me laugh. Maybe the universe is a living field of consciousness. Maybe it's a simulation. Maybe it's a simulation inside a simulation. Maybe it's something entirely different. At this point, who knows? What I do know is this: something is moving, something is changing. You can see it everywhere. You can feel it. People questioning careers, relationships, beliefs, spirituality, success, identity, the lives they built, the stories they inherited, and perhaps what we're witnessing isn't collapse, perhaps it's transformation, not of the world, but of perception itself. I laugh because Chrysler's making me laugh. He was just scratching, so the mic may have picked that up in case you did. But anyway, he's just being a dog, and I allow him to be a dog. Maybe some of us aren't losing faith. Maybe we're losing our attachment to certainty. And perhaps those are not the same thing. So if you're standing in a season of questions, if reality feels different, if old answers aren't landing, if you're not sure what you believe anymore, You don't need to rush. You don't need to solve it. You don't need to arrive somewhere. Maybe for now, it's enough to sit beside the mystery, to allow the questions, to trust the unfolding, and to remember that uncertainty is not a sign that we've lost our way. Sometimes it's simply a sign that you're standing at the edge of a larger landscape, one you haven't fully seen yet. This has been the Storytelling Sherpa, my voice, my journey, my lane. And wherever you're listening from today, or whatever timeline, or whenever, whatever days, months, years, remember this: your story, your pace, your presence.